Welcome to sequencing review number 2. So this is where I do some reviews on yoga classes that either I've created or someone else created, and a review and kind of nitpick a little bit and talk about how it went for me teaching it, or I'm going to be doing yoga teacher trainees reviews as well. So I'm Ashley. I created this group and I'm here to help you with your yoga sequencing and also start conversations around cueing and teaching tips and how to work it in a yoga class, both online and offline. So I'm here to help you and also just become a more confident teacher myself by doing things like this, getting on live. So anyway, before I get into the sequence, I do want to mention we did use my what's it called? My workshop or my formula called Focused Flow. So it was my yoga sequencing style and how we create a class. We did it right here. You can get that at the link I posted if you want to check that out. I just launched it Friday. It is a workshop, a 75-minute workshop. Could have been broken down into different smaller segments too, with a workbook and all that great stuff to how to sequence your yoga classes. So you can check that out over at the link I have listed. But now let's talk about this review. So this is the class we developed. I haven't erased it yet. And the yoga trainees, 10 of them, and I went through and developed a class from warm-up, middle section, and the cool down. So I have 3 parts to the sequence, actually several. You got to find a focus first, and then you have to decide on a flow, which I have several listed inside of my Focus Flow workshop, and I'll tell you which one we use here. So if you can see this, we decided that we were going to do, this is kind of like a screen share, a whiteboard screen share. We were going to do an empowered and powerful strong class. It's a power yoga class for regulars in yoga who want to be challenged. And I liked this because I haven't sequenced a power class. Most trainees ask for we want a nice evening hip opening flow. So it was kind of fun to be like, okay, we're doing something hard. And so you see that stick figure, that's going to be our peak pose. I asked them the question of, okay, if we want to feel empowered and as people who want to be challenged, you want to feel strong, what's a bigger pose we could do that would reflect that? And we had Bird of Paradise was an option. And I was like, you know what? A lot of people pick Bird of Paradise. I was like, let's do something different for once. Okay. So I was like, I nixed the Bird of Paradise because that's hip opening. I wanted to do something more like core strength or a little stronger. So I thought, what about side plank B, like full Vashisthasana? And so they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we want to get into that pose, and that's what we're theming our class around. So it's to leave class feeling strong, empowered, and confident. And then we broke it down. So in the beginning, we do an intro, what props you'll need, which pose do we want to start in. We put that here. We're going to start lying down. We talk about the breath, lying down, because I decided that in this practice, we're going to do a few what could be called blueprint poses. So we'd be lying down and taking your leg out to the side. You're basically in side plank. You're just tipped on your back. We're also going to do that standing where you're lifted and open the leg out to the side. You're in side plank B. Basically, you're just standing up instead of in an arm balance. So with knowing we're doing side plank B as our peak pose, I had to say, all right, so what do we need to work or warm up in order to get there? Well, number 1, we need to open the hips and the hamstrings. We also need to make sure that our arms are warmed up and our core is fired up. So a lot going on. I taught this class yesterday, and I can link the YouTube video too if you're interested in seeing that. It was hard. It was really hard. It was one of the hardest classes I've taught in a long time. And so what we decided on was to do 2 standing sequences or 2 sequences in the middle. So the warm-up was very standard. This could be a warm-up for a lot of different classes. It could have progressed to many different things, but it's this middle portion that we decided that needs to be a little more creative. And the cool down, same thing, a little bit standard, so we could use this cool down anytime. And I did notice when I taught this that we probably could have added something, and I did take something out of the cool down. So the standing sequence number 1, we have a crescent lunge to a warrior 2, reverse warrior, side angle, single leg plank vinyasa to a triangle pose. So a lot of standing heat building poses. So you went through that. A crescent lunge, held it for a while. And in this, we decided we were doing a block sequence, a block pose sequence. So we've got a block here. We do right side, then left side. We've got a block right here. We do right side, then left side. And then we've got our peak pose. There are different methods to this as well. There's a ladder flow or a wave flow, where you repeat poses more frequently. This one, we're just gonna do it once on the left, once on the right, and hold them for a little longer. Because power yoga is that holding a little bit longer. You're going to be in the challenge, in the work of it, more than flowing through it. So we went through this crescent lunge, warrior two, reverse warrior, side angle, and triangle, and we held it for a while. I even added an option to intensify, and it was hard. I will tell you it was hard. That's my review, is holding a warrior two and then going to side reverse warrior and side angle when you're in your legs for so long like that. It gets to be a lot. So each one I held like 8 breaths. And so having something I think in between to release would have been nice. And I think I did. I think I straightened the legs for a moment and then we were in the next pose. So I did add that. I was like, oh, my leg's burning. And also we did sun salutations and stuff. So I was already burning. We added a core section where we did fallen triangle push-ups. Come on, you guys. Fallen triangle push-ups. I gotta show you those. So if you're unaware of what that is and you wanna make your class a challenge, fallen triangle push-ups. Fallen triangle is here. You kick your leg out to the side, right? Kick your leg out to the side, spin your heel down, and we lift up. So this is a side plank, essentially, with a kickstand out to the side. Fallen triangle push-ups include taking the hand down and doing a push-up. Lift back up, maybe even lift the leg. Fallen triangle push-up. And so we had that towards our peak pose as a way to really heat up and warm up. And then we did another little series of crescent, warrior three, hand to toe. And I did this almost as written right here. And this is how I write out mine. It's just with words. It's not making I could make icons. I could go to tummy.com or use an app, but I just write them with the words. And I decided, and then we did so we did standing series, a lot of warrior poses to get us heat built. And then we did like a core work, fallen triangle, back to a balance pose. This is more towards like the middle of our practice. So I did standing balance where we got into this type of thing because it's side plank standing. And as a teacher, if I were teaching this in person, doing the poses that are alike, I should actually call them Tetris poses. I'm gonna call them Tetris poses, right? So if you played Tetris before, when you click the button, it flips the it flips the blocks. Flips it to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. Well, a Tetris pose, now I'm gonna make this like my proprietary, gotta trademark that, Tetris pose, is like this. This, right, is side plank B. That's what we were heading towards. But this is side plank B standing. And you can do it lying down. This is side plank B. And just like this right here is handstand. Standing up mountain pose is handstand. You're just flipped. So it's a Tetris pose. No longer named blueprint pose. It's called Tetris pose. So we made sure to hit up a few Tetris poses. And so we did it lying down at the beginning, and also we did it standing in a balance section. And then we got to that peak pose. Everyone's like, I mean, including myself. I was talking through all this while doing it. Whew. And I got done, and I think people kind of fell off somewhat here. And in this, I fell over several times. So I tried to get into the first side plank B, talking through it. And I grabbed my toe, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I fell over. And it was kind of fun. It was actually really fun. So we got through that. And then I realized at the cool down, which we didn't have, I didn't want to do pigeon pose because I didn't feel like I needed that hip opening because we had done so much rotation in the hip, and it just didn't seem like it was a hip class. So I didn't do pigeon pose. And then the one thing that I would have put in the end was a quad stretch. So something like hero pose would have been great. Because we did a lot of chairs, we did a lot of activation in the upper legs. I would have really liked to add a seated sort of, maybe it's a camel pose or something where I'm stretching the quads, and I didn't. So at the end I was like, okay, that's how I would change it. Because the cool down was a seated twist, a forward fold, reverse plank, but nothing that stretched the quads. So by the time we got to the ground, we did bridge pose, and I offered wheel pose, but they aren't necessarily quad stretches. They're more activators for the quads. So I would have added that, legs up the wall, twist, happy baby. So the cool down was very kind of standard. We do a seated twist, a seated forward fold, reverse plank, because you hit up like each how the spine moves. You hit up a twist, which is really great for neutralizing. You go to a forward fold, you do a little back bend, and then at the bottom you do a simple twist again, maybe an inversion, happy baby, shavasana. And while you're doing this, you can talk about the words that are like the empowering, the theme. Put in little nuggets of information of how to feel stronger or more confident and powerful in your practice. And I tried to do that throughout. Of course, sometimes it ends up I mention the theme at the beginning, and then I might mention something in the middle, and then I reconnect with it at the end. So at least doing 3 points where you're mentioning either a quote or the theme in some way. If you just mention it at the beginning and the end, it's going to feel really discombobulated, and your students are going to be like, wait, this was the theme for class and you didn't mention it at all in class, just at the beginning of the end. So to mention at least a couple more times, if not just one time in the middle, maybe it's that plank pose or that peak pose where you mention, hey, remember our goal is to feel strong, and in order to feel strong and to get strong, we've got to find our weaknesses. So by falling, it's a good thing. And so that would be my message, is falling is a good thing because it shows you where we can get stronger. And today you're going to leave feeling like you did something amazing and you attempted something that was very challenging. So great job. So this is my sequence review of the class that I taught. And I also noticed after I got done teaching this class, I noticed my microphone wasn't actually connected. So it was my laptop that picked up the sound, and it was fine. It was fine. It's a little more tinny, but those of you who are struggling because you don't think you have the right technology, know that no one said anything. The 5 people that were on the class did not say anything about the sound being bad. I didn't even realize that my microphone wasn't working, so I just talked as if it was on myself. A microphone was on me, and I talked to my regular self. I didn't have to yell into the computer, and you can still hear. So it picks up that sound really well, especially if you're in a room that doesn't have tons of loud noises. So yeah, we did a side plank B class, and this was probably one of the harder classes I've ever taught. Not ever, but on Zoom and lately. There was a lot of holding, a lot of warrior poses, a lot of strength building. And even if you do teach stronger classes, reminding people, giving them options, reminding them that they don't have to take the biggest option or this other option, and not saying, if you can't do this, then do this. There is no if you can't. It's if today you're still building strength, or if today your breath gets lost in this pose or choppy, then come into this one instead. And I did just put another cueing exercise into my focus flow workshop. I have, I think, 5, and I keep building the cueing portion. So I've got workbooks and like mini lessons in cueing. So you get the full workshop in my focus flow workshop, but then you get like 5, 6, 7 different lessons in the cueing stuff. And I'll keep adding to that every time I notice that the yoga teacher trainees I'm working with now, every time I notice that they need help with something specific, I'll make something for them and then put it inside that course too. So if you want to get that, there's that link right here, there, wherever it is. Otherwise, I hope that you are spending time reviewing the classes that you have taught or that you're going to teach, not just before and looking at it and questioning it, but afterwards, spending a little time, it may be in meditation. It could be a simple 5 minutes and thinking, how did that go? Did that feel right? Did those transitions, like, were they effective? And if they weren't, that's okay. It's a learning opportunity. So continue teaching your classes and getting feedback from your students and also yourself. As you're teaching on Zoom, if you're like me, you're demoing everything. You don't have to do that, but I do that. And I can really feel, if I'm feeling it, my students are feeling it. If I'm struggling, my students are struggling. So I know when to back off or when to not back off, because I have a personal practice that I come back to, and I know my body well, and I hope you do too. So if you want to use a whiteboard, write it out. That works. That's awesome. If not, you can write down however you like, and I would love to hear from you how you review your classes after teaching. If that's something you regularly do, or if it's something that you struggle with, or if you do plan, how do you plan your classes? Okay, that's a lot of questions, but I'm here for you to help you out. I'm trying to do as much as I can to help those of you who are new to yoga teaching or who are in teacher training to develop confidence in your yoga class sequencing and the words that you say. Those things, once you get those two, it can be a little easier. You feel more confident. It can be easier to get out there and actually teach. Technology aside, to get out there and actually teach with whatever, cell phone that you have, or the one person you have in your family that you can teach to. Always great practice. So I hope you get out there and teach, and I can't wait to keep doing sequence reviews like this. I might even start on another one soon of one of my yoga teacher trainees. This was number 2. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again later. Bye.